Wait, that isn't EU4. That's right, boys. Today's game is Victoria 3. Currently, I do nothing else to play this game. Want to see proof? Look at my recent upload schedule. Please send help. I know that the game in its current state is far away from being bug-free, but oh boy, is it fun. Some of the bugs are actually so good, I would even promote them as features. Like the Frontline Wizard. He has a 50-50 chance to send all of your troops home after Frontline gets merged or split it apart. Or the Drunken Diplomat. He doesn't care about clean borders, he wants land, and it doesn't matter where he finds it. This of course brings me to the best thing I've seen so far. No chill ape. He wants to free the slaves so hard that he starts to colonialize Africa. Beautiful. Today's nation, Austria. And to make it even more fun, I had Twitch chat around. Its job was to act as my government. This meant that every law I wanted to implement had to be approved by my chat first. This of course led to a constant battle between trolls and people who generally wanted to see a functioning nation. So perfect to simulate Austrian politics of the time. And to put a cherry on top of everything, this was also my very first time playing this game. Today's challenge: survive. The first thing I noticed while playing Austria is that the numbers of radicals went up, and it went up fast. At the beginning, this scared the out of me, but after a while of playing this nation, I learned that this is just a natural thing you have to live with while playing Austria. And the local tax reduction it gives you is not too bad if you have enough policing in your nation. It only becomes scary if you also radicalize big parts of your government. Then it will trigger a large-scale revolution. So, to not make anyone angry, I decided to focus on the economy for now and reform the nation later. And because some time has passed from my first playthrough to now, let me give you a fast guide on Victoria 3 economics. The economy in Victoria 3 is split up in different markets, with every market being its own little mini economy that has its own prices and needs. This means that just because a lot of coal is being produced globally, doesn't mean that you have an abundance of the good in your own market. This brings us to the value of a good. The value of a good can range from very cheap to base price to very expensive. If a good is very cheap, you have an abundance of the good in your own market, which means it's easy for your population or industry to acquire. Downside, the producer of the good will have a hard time selling it with a profit. Basically, if coal becomes very cheap, it's good for the steel mill, but bad for the coal mine itself. On the other hand, if a good is very expensive, you have very little of that good in your market. This is very good for the producer of the good, but bad for the consumer. Once again, bringing up the same example. If coal becomes very expensive, the coal mine will have an easy time making a profit, but the steel mill will struggle and stop producing. Bottom line, industries need to make a profit, otherwise they will stop producing and people will lose their jobs. This will lead to radicalism, which you know is bad. Also important to mention, you don't earn any money by selling goods. You mostly earn money by taxing the factories which produce the goods. So if you want to stay on the safe side, your goal should always be to keep the value at base price, so all the businesses can make a profit that you can tax. This brings us to the big question: how do you influence the price of a good? That's actually pretty straightforward. Say a good is way too cheap. This means you have way too much of that good in your market. Solution: you can export the good into other markets or expand the factories that consume it. This way, the good becomes less abundant and the value rises. On the other side, if a good is way too expensive, you have very little of that good in your market. Solution: you can just import more or upgrade the manufacturer that produces it. This way, the good becomes more accessible in your market and the value will fall. Just be a little careful with trade routes because they use convoys and bureaucracy. If you start to go in the negative with either of them, especially bureaucracy, bad stuff will happen to your economy. Trust me. If you play a smaller nation and join a bigger nation's market, you don't have to think about import or export, because the market leader will, most of the time, keep the prices in check. So you could just specialize in one good in the market and make a profit that way. Example, once I played Canada and I became rich by just producing hardwood because the British market always had a high value on that. So, now that that is done, back to Austria. Where did we left off? Ah yes, I jump-started the Austrian industry with tooling factories. Because in my current work mode, mines and sawmills use tools to produce their goods. And my tool factories would need their output to once again produce the tools they use. Quite a symbiotic and lucrative relationship. With the foundation of my industry set, I started to expand it more and more. After a while, I could even see the profits go off the charts. I mean literally, look. Please never change that. But back to that later. For now, the economy was not too bad. And the people were still a little bit unhappy. So, the time to reform our government has come. This brings us to the fun part of being a leader: politics. I now had to convince my chat to put through laws that would stabilize our nation. Yeah, I know. Fun. The first reform I let my chat vote on was the most important of them all. As you might have learned in history, Austria in the 19th century wasn't mostly Austrian. Quite on the contrary. Maybe 1/5 of the nation was Austrian, or as the game might wrongfully put it, South German. Why is this bad? Let's take a look at our citizenship law. Ah yes. Perfect. I mean, it could be worse. But still, this is our biggest source of radicalism, which has increased a lot over time. So change is needed fast. I made the poll, and most people actually voted for multiculturalism, which is a great law for our nation, but we can't enact it. Why? As you might remember, high radicalism plus an angry government means revolution. And oh boy, would this make our nobility angry. The reason being that the Austrian autocracy has a special ideology that makes them hate every other law that isn't national supremacy. So the first step towards reformation of our government was to diminish the nobility's power in our government. How can this be done? Good that you asked. The nobility's power comes from laws in our nation that we start with, like local police force or hereditary bureaucrats. Oh, I did it first try. So I started lobbying towards chat how important these laws are and let them in the end decide which one we should choose. Being at the mercy of other people in a game where you have no idea what you're doing while trying to survive as best as you can is scary. But then the vote came in and my reforms were allowed to be passed. I then very quickly learned about the amazing Victoria 3 reformation system. Every law took forever to be passed. Thanks to being at the mercy of RNG that feels like it's stacked against you. It became so bad, it started to feel like real-life politics and lawmaking. At the end, the laws were passed, but I paid a heavy toll to get them through. My sanity. While I was waiting for that, I changed my focus onto diplomacy. I befriended most of my big neighbors to make me feel more safe and bully the Prussians. This allowed me to reconquer core Austrian land, which bought me some time and weakened the now so-called Northern German Federation. After somewhat discussing with my chat and suppressing of the nobility, I was finally able to change the citizen law to multicultural. This still took forever to be enacted, but when it finally was, it was a beautiful moment. Finally, the radicalism will stop rising and we can now enjoy a big and now also prosperous nation. The Austria-Hungary event triggered and I was ready to see the beautiful color Paradox gave to it. Let me show you my live reaction when I first saw it. What is that color? Why is Austria-Hungary the piss culture? Yeah, I know. You're in. But at least we're more stable now, right? So, I formed Austria-Hungary. What now? I started to feel a bit empty inside, without a big goal to strive for. I kinda fixed the nation, and the economy was good. So what to do now? At this moment, Chet pointed out that I could form Germany, even as Austria-Hungary. Does it make sense? No. Do I care? No. So my new goal was set. First, we needed to fight the North German Federation again. And thanks to the amazing relations with my neighbors, I didn't have to fight this war. Oh, new achievement. Now, we are the only unifier left, and a quick war later, I was able to unite Germany. At least some kind of Germany. Oh, this is cursed. Achievement. Let's go. After all of this fighting, I noticed that uniting Germany doesn't give me cause on any of the newly gained states. On top of that, my radicalism went up and my economy was in shambles. To stabilize the nation again, I started to lobby for a national guard. Chat actually immediately agreed with me. So, with this reform soon in place, the chances of a civil war or other future internal risks should be reduced. But I learned that continuing the path of reformation with very high radicalism, angry political parties, and a decreasingly worsening economy is a bad idea. Not willing to stop the approved reform, I quickly learned hands-on about the civil war mechanics of Victoria 3. It triggered very fast and forced me to choose a side, staying loyal to our government or joining the revolution. Of course, I stayed loyal to my government. Big mistake. The previous 50-50 split was a little bit off. It was more like a 90-10, with me getting the 10%. The situation was bad. Long story short, I lost. Losing to your own nation, that hurts. But if you know me, you know I'm stubborn. So a day later, I decided to play again and use the knowledge I learned to absolutely dominate European affairs. I built up a strong industry last time, reformed the government earlier, and improved relations with important neighbors immediately. With the nation in better shape than ever and the North Germans weakened, my time to strike has come. I declared war on the Northern German Federation. And not gonna lie, this war was chaos. I couldn't handle all the front lines popping up, merging, and also straight up disappearing. I won this war, but honestly, I couldn't tell you how. Yes. But thanks to this victory, I was able to unite Germany in its fullest. I've never been so big and also unstable at the same time. As I mentioned earlier, forming Germany doesn't give you any cores. Just a name, a color, and accepted cultures. And all of this annexing increased my infamy just a little bit. This led to France declaring war on me instantly, with the war goal being to disunite the newly formed German nation. A nation I once called a friend in this playthrough. And with their better economy and higher militech, I had nearly no chance to win. I did what I could do best, hold out and reform our military as fast as I could. My economy was a husk of its former self, but that didn't matter right now. After a while, I actually started to push back, liberating one state after another. And then finally, after reaching the French border, they asked for peace. The war was won. Kinda. But the German people would stay united and a superpower was born. Right after this, the US also declared war on me too. But how can I put this? The US in this game is not good, and adding the current state of the AI doesn't help them a bit. So, yeah, easy war reparations for us. It took a while, but after a few more years, the economy was back in shape and our nation became a beacon of liberty and human rights inside of Europe. So the next logical step, of course, was colonialization. The big question now was, where to begin? Africa? It was already pretty occupied by the British and French, so I decided the next best target, Indonesia. The region is filled with rare resources and gold mines, so a perfect first step towards being a global empire. A few wars later, the colonies were established and the money started to flow. Actually, way more than I could use. So I cranked up the industrialization inside of Germany by a lot. This catapulted us firmly to first place world power. There was only one nation left that could challenge us. A nation so strong, it alone made empires of our timeline decline just by holding out long enough. Serbia. So, I annexed them. I mean, what do you thought? By the way, what the f is that government paradox? 89% legitimacy? What? Next video is about Byzantium. If you wanna beat alive, join the stream on Monday.